Thank you for tuning into the Additional Day School Year ADSY HB2 recording, where we'll discuss the importance and impact of ADSY, updates to eligibility and funding due to House Bill 2 from the 2025 legislative session, and the grant funding opportunity through the Learning Acceleration Support Opportunities, or LASSO, Consolidated Grant Application System. Let's begin by reviewing what we'll cover. Today's agenda includes walking through the challenge that necessitates an initiative like ADSY, the opportunity provided through ADSY and the reporting requirements, the supports available to school systems statewide, and finally, the resources and next steps. Let's start by understanding the challenge that ADSY is designed to address. Summer learning loss disproportionately affects low-income students. The cumulative impact creates achievement gaps that compound year after year, leaving those students further behind. To see how this challenge unfolds, let's look at the impact of summer breaks on student achievement. Student achievement levels drop during the summer months, known as the summer slide. Research shows that middle-class students advance by 1 month over the summer, while low-income students can fall behind by 2 to 3 months. This gap can reach up to 3 grade levels by 5th grade for low-income students. And this is just impact from summer breaks alone. Beyond summer, the structure of the school calendar itself can affect student outcomes. Correlating evidence in Texas shows that campuses with fewer instructional days have worse outcomes. The Texas 4-day school week campus analysis for the 2022-2023 school year found campuses with fewer instructional days had 6 to 8 lower percentage of students meeting STAR reading grade level for grades 6 through 8, and 5 to 8% lower percentage meeting STAR math grade level for grades 4 to 6. All of this lays the groundwork for why it's critical to leverage an initiative like ADSY. In addition to this, a recent meta-analysis found that extended learning time is effective when paired with improved instructional strategies and high-quality learning experiences. Schools can leverage additional time to improve academic success, but time must be used effectively and must be aligned with academic goals, emphasizing the need for coherence at every level when adding instructional days to the calendar. Building on this, ADSY offers formula funding to school systems that provide up to 30 additional instructional days beyond the minimum required, helping to combat summer learning loss by giving students increased access to quality teaching and supports through extended learning time. To understand how ADSY began, let's look at the legislative foundation. House Bill 3 in 2019 created an extended year incentive program via additional day school year, providing half-day formula funding to school districts, offering up to 30 additional instructional days for pre-K through 5th grade students. This legislative change added half-day formula funding for additional instructional days. The first official year of implementation for ADSY was in 2020-2021. Now let's see the impact ADSY has had on student outcomes. Over the past 5 years, we've routinely seen promising outcomes data for students participating in ADSY. Data shows that ADSY students see higher achievement growth than the state average. Here in particular, we see that in data from 2023 to 2024, on the left, that math achievement growth for ADSY students was 3 points higher than the state at approaches grade level and above. And on the right, reading achievement growth for ADSY students was 4 points higher than the state at approaches grade level and above. Due to the continuous compelling data showing that ADSY students see higher achievement growth than the state average, recent legislative updates have further expanded access to ADSY. 3 key updates to note for ADSY from House Bill 2 include the base calendar requirement being lowered to 175 days. It had previously been 180. grade level eligibility expanded to pre-K through 8. It had previously been limited to pre-K through 5. And a new pathway to 3/4 day formula funding for campuses offering 200 plus days. Previously, only half-day formula funding was available. These changes are effective beginning September 2025 as part of the 2025-2026 school year. Now let's clarify how ADSY works and who can benefit. Again, ADSY adds formula funding for school systems that add up to 30 additional instructional days beyond 175 to elementary or middle schools, grades pre-K through 8. There are two formula funding pathways. Half-day formula funding for anywhere between 1 and 30 additional half-days, and 3/4 day formula funding is available for those adding 25 to 30 additional full days beyond that base calendar minimum. In order to qualify for this ADA, under the Student Attendance Accounting Handbook, students must receive at least 120 minutes of instruction for half-day attendance and 240 minutes of instruction for full-day attendance. Half-day and full-day instruction are defined in the Student Attendance Accounting Handbook, which sets the eligibility for FSP attendance funding. Another piece here to note, per Texas Education Code Section 25.085, subsection I, is that ADSY attendance is non-compulsory for students. Next, let's break down the eligibility and requirements for each of these formula funding pathways. So, ADSY formula funding, again, is available in two forms, each with specific eligibility criteria for each associated pathway. Here, you'll see the eligibility criteria for the half-day formula funding pathway. The campus participating in ADSY must serve at least one grade within grades pre-K through 8, have a board-approved academic calendar with 175 instructional days, with 75,600 operational minutes for all campus instructional tracks, and then add 1 to 30 additional half-days. In this formula funding pathway, a campus may add as little as one additional half-day and have that ADSY day generate formula funding once reported in PEIMS. Students must be scheduled for and provided with at least 2 hours of instruction by teachers meeting the school system certification requirements on the ADSY days for the day to generate formula funding. ADSY days must be hosted separately from the regular instructional days, which means ADSY days cannot be hosted in the second part of a regular instructional day. Now let's focus on the new 3/4 day formula funding feature from House Bill 2. The new 3/4 day formula funding feature, shown in blue on the right column of this table, allows participating campuses to generate 3/4 day formula funding when reaching the 200-day threshold set in statute. For this formula funding pathway, the campus participating in ADSY must serve at least one grade level within grades pre-K through 8, have a total of at least 200 full instructional days in the board-approved calendar. This total may include ADSY days, but the campus must operate a base academic calendar for all campus instructional tracks with at least 175 full instructional days with the minimum of the 75,600 operational minutes, and then add 25 to 30 additional full days. In this formula funding pathway, a campus must add the 25 to 30 additional full days of instruction beyond that base minimum of 175 in order to reach that 200-day threshold that was set in statute. Then students must be scheduled for and provided with at least 4 hours of instruction by teachers meeting the school system certification requirements for the day to generate formula funding. And then again, same as the half-day formula funding pathway, ADSY days must be hosted separately from the regular instructional days. To help visualize, here are some examples of calendar configurations that qualify for ADSY formula funding. We'll start with the half-day formula funding example. To generate half-day formula funding, an example calendar setup could look like the base 175 regular instructional days plus 15 half-day ADSY days. In this scenario, the 15 ADSY days would generate half-day formula funding if properly reported in PEIMS. Let's look at more practical examples for the 3/4 day formula funding. 3/4 day funding requires at least 200 full instructional days, which can include ADSY days. To generate 3/4 day formula funding, an example calendar setup could look like a campus calendar with 175 full regular instructional days, plus 25 full ADSY days added. In this example, the 25 full ADSY days would qualify for 3/4 day formula funding because the 200 full day threshold is met. Let's look at a second example. If the campus calendar has 180 full regular instructional days, plus 25 full ADSY days, the 25 full ADSY days qualify for 3/4 day formula funding because the 200-day threshold is met and was also surpassed. The next section emphasizes the importance of accurate reporting. So 2 additional notes. Per the Student Attendance Accounting Handbook, to be eligible to generate FSP funding for attendance, a student must be scheduled and provided instruction for at least 2 hours for half-day attendance or at least 4 hours for full-day attendance each day. And reporting through PEIMS is essential to generating ADA funding. ADSY days must be reported in the PEIMS extended year submission, and we'll have more information about what that process looks like later on in this recording. Now, let's see some examples of how these funding pathways translate into real numbers for campuses. Here is a simple half-day scenario based on the state average ADA funding rate of approximately $30 per half-day. If a student attends 30 additional days, the funding generated would be $900 per student. For a classroom of 15 students, assuming a 5% absence rate, the adjusted classroom level funding would be approximately $900 times 15 students times that 95% attendance rate, which would equal $12,825 per class. In this scenario, if the school operates 34 classrooms serving a total of 525 students, the estimated school level funding could be $436,000. Important note and reminder, ADSY generated funding is added to a school system's FSP, Foundation School Program, as general revenue funds. This means school systems have the autonomy to use funds to continue supporting staff who serve students during the additional days or allocate the funding elsewhere. Finally, let's look at the sample scenario for the new 3/4 day formula funding pathway. The new 3/4 day formula funding pathway stipulates that eligible schools meeting the 200-day threshold receive 50% more ADA-based funding from the total computed for half-day formula funding. So in this scenario, the per student funding for 30 additional days would be approximately $45 per eligible ADSY days. This scenario builds off of the numbers shared before and continues to assume 525 students, 34 classrooms, and a 95% attendance rate. For the 3/4 day formula funding scenario, the estimated school level funding could be as much as $654,000. And these are examples based on state average ADA funding for half-day and 3/4 day funding and are meant to illustrate the formula funding aspect for ADSY. School systems must use local funding input when making any funding projections and decisions about ADSY. And now let's review the ADSY design considerations.
Now that we've talked about ADSY formula funding, let's take a look at the different design considerations that a school system could choose when deciding how to most effectively leverage ADSY days to support students. When it comes to designing your ADSY program, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. There are 3 ADSY design consideration models. First, there's the summer learning model. This is great for districts that want to extend learning and offer enrichment opportunities after the regular school year ends through a summer program. Then we have the intersessional calendar model, which spreads instructional days across the year and builds in breaks for targeted support for targeted groups of students. And third, we have the full year redesign model. This model focuses on rethinking the school year by adding weekly ADSY days to extend learning, provide brain breaks and enrichment for students, and to give teachers more planning time. If we start with the ADSY summer model, research shows that the effectiveness of summer programs really depends on their design. Here we see a synthesis of a RAND Corporation study that spanned multiple diverse school systems across the United States. The study found that summer programs with specific quality parameters can effectively eliminate summer slide. Those quality parameters are running a no-cost program for 5 to 6 weeks, keeping class sizes small, ensuring certified teachers provide at least 3 hours of academics each day, offering high-quality enrichment, and providing transportation and meals at no cost. Here we see the intersession model. Intersession is a flexible model that adds instructional time, typically around major breaks like Thanksgiving and spring break, to provide targeted support for students who would benefit from additional support. By creating dedicated windows for intervention and acceleration, this approach allows school systems to respond more consistently to student needs and close learning gaps in real time. This example shows how school systems can make the most of ADSY intercession days by layering Tier 1 instruction with targeted supports, like small group tutoring, just-in-time interventions, and differentiation. When regular instructional days are strategically aligned with intercession days, it creates a more consistent and responsive approach to accelerating student learning throughout the year. And here we have the third design consideration, ADSY full year redesign. Campuses participating in full year have the opportunity to rethink the traditional school day, exploring new strategies that benefit both students and teachers. Campuses schedule weekly ADSY days into their instructional calendars to build out a 200+ day school year. This structure increases teacher planning time throughout the week through the placement of those weekly ADSY days, which supports long-term sustainability, and it creates more opportunities for student brain breaks and enrichment, leading to a more engaging and a more balanced daily experience. This example gives a glimpse into what an ADSY day could look like at a full year redesign campus. In this example, weekly Wednesday ADSY days, which you can see on the far right of the screen in the table, include extended time for brain breaks, project-based learning, and individualized learning time. Rather than follow the regular day 290-minute instructional block, ADSY days shift the focus to accelerated learning in reading and math. One of the strengths of this model is its flexibility. It gives campuses room to structure the school day in ways that best support individual student needs. So now shifting from design considerations into the mechanics of how to generate ADSY formula funding. To receive ADSY funding, school systems must report attendance through PEIMS. Submission 3, which you see on the left side of the screen, is due in June and includes base calendar information. This submission is not required, but it is highly recommended. It is recommended because submitting the base calendar in Submission 3 allows for any data corrections to be made and resubmitted in the required PEIMS 4 submission. In PEIMS Submission 4, the required extended year submission, which is due in August, school systems must report ADSY attendance. This includes the instructional minutes for each ADSY day, as well as the participating students and staff. The extended year submission, or Submission 4, is the official way school systems report ADSY attendance to TEA, and it is required to receive formula funding. This submission includes several key pieces of information: the dates of each ADSY day, the number of instructional minutes provided, and records of which students and teachers participated. It is important to note that instructional time must meet minimum thresholds to qualify: at least 2 hours for half-day funding and at least 4 hours for campuses pursuing 3/4 day funding. Once your data is submitted, it is important to verify it. You'll use the superintendent's report to confirm student counts and compare your summary of finance runs to see how ADSY impacts your funding. If there is an increase in ADA, it will show up in your foundation payment ledger, and that could mean a settle-up payment. Let's talk briefly about ADSY waiver guidance. Campuses that participate in ADSY can request up to 5 waiver days during the year if they miss instructional days for reasons like weather, health, or safety. If a school system already has a board-approved 175-day calendar, they do not need to make up 2 missed days for ADSY purposes. It is important to note that these waiver days are specifically for meeting the ADSY 175-day instruction requirement. They are not the same as the missed school day waiver. School systems that wish to request 1 or more, school systems may request up to 5, ADSY waiver days must submit that request through the TEAL waiver system under the ADSY waiver. School systems will submit evidence of the board-approved 175-day calendar, documentation for the reason for the missed school day or days, and the board meeting agenda from which the specific waiver application request was approved. Finally, keep in mind that there are no waivers for missed ADSY days themselves. Here is an example of a waiver question. The question is, if a district calendar initially accounts for 175 days with 2 bad weather makeup days, but the district experiences multiple days of closure, is meeting 75,600 minutes enough to qualify for ADSY funding? And the answer, if the school system had a board-approved 175-day instructional calendar and is meeting the 75,600 minute requirement, applying for the ADSY waiver would be the next step in assuring compliance with the 175-day instructional requirement. So we've discussed the challenge of summer learning loss and how ADSY offers a meaningful opportunity to address it, whether through summer learning, intersession, or full-year redesign. We're about to pivot to discussing grant supports, but I wanted to just stamp again before we move on that ADSY formula funding is available to any campus statewide that meets the eligibility criteria we've discussed. Interested school systems should just work to ensure that their academic calendars are aligned with ADSY eligibility requirements, and then be sure to submit their ADSY days and information in the PEIMS 4 submission in August to generate ADSY funding. And remember that optional but highly recommended PEIMS 3 submission in June. Now let's take a moment to highlight the support available to school systems through the ADSY Planning and Execution Program, which is an optional grant designed to help districts implement high-quality ADSY models with thoughtful planning and long-term sustainability in mind. The ADSY Planning and Execution Program is built around 5 key pillars that support strong implementation: aligning district and community goals, using high-quality instructional materials effectively, supporting teacher effectiveness and reducing teacher fatigue, making smart use of time for both students and staff, and prioritizing strategies for high-need students. These pillars reflect what research tells us. The most meaningful impacts happen when extended learning time is part of a broader, well-aligned strategy. The ADSY PEP grant helps school systems build that strategy with the right tools and supports in place. ADSY PEP is an optional grant program that helps school systems implement research-based extended learning models, either through full year or summer learning, while leveraging ADSY formula funding for long-term sustainability. School systems can access ADSY formula funding regardless of whether they participate in the ADSY PEP grant. This grant is designed to strengthen how ADSY funding is put into practice. By participating in the grant, school systems also have the opportunity to tap into both ADSY formula funding and ADSY PEP grant funding. Participants engage in a year-long strategic planning process, receive monthly technical assistance, and engage in monthly professional development. All of the professional development and technical assistance is delivered by extended learning experts, and all with the goal of supporting school systems with strong ADSY program design and implementation. Over the past 5 years, nearly 100 school systems have participated in ADSY PEP, building a strong network focused on high-quality extended learning. The ADSY PEP grant opportunity is offered annually through the Learning Acceleration Support Opportunities or LASSO application process. For districts considering ADSY PEP, this is a chance to join a growing cohort and access structured support to strengthen your ADSY implementation. For those of you joining us today or viewing this webinar in the fall of 2025, ADSY PEP Summer and Full Year are currently being offered as grant-supported opportunities in LASSO 4, which is currently underway. Before closing out today, we want to highlight some resources available to you. We've updated the ADSY webpage with new resources, FAQs, and guidance material, so if you're looking for tools to support your planning and implementation, this is a good place to start. There are two specific tools that we'd like to call your attention to as great supports for beginning your ADSY planning now. The first is the 6-step implementation guide. This guide outlines key actions to consider, such as selecting a funding pathway, aligning your calendar, and planning for staffing and reporting. It provides a helpful starting point for organizing next steps and ensuring alignment with ADSY requirements. Another resource is the calendar workbook tool. This tool helps school systems visualize and plan their ADSY calendar by experimenting with different configurations for the placement of regular instructional days and ADSY days. To use the workbook, you'll make a copy. Then in the cell below each date, you'll enter the letter code that corresponds to the type of day. R for regular day, A for ADSY day, O for other non-instructional time, etc. As you enter codes, the day counts will automatically update in the summary cells at the top, giving you a quick view of your calendar totals. Our hope is that this is a helpful tool in designing your ADSY calendars. Here we have an overview of additional resources to support your ADSY planning. On the TEA ADSY webpage, you can also find an HB2 update and FAQ document. There are one-pagers for each ADSY model and a comprehensive ADSY implementation guide. If you have questions after today's session, you can visit the ADSY webpage, review the FAQ, or email the TEA ADSY team at adsy@tea.texas.gov. Thank you.